Paraclete XP, which is a great drop zone in North Carolina. And if you notice, I've got the wind turned up, so I'm going to do some tests here to see see about the realism. And so the wind is presumably headed in that direction. I've given myself an upwind spot, so let's do this thing. Bye, balloon. All right, I normally will reset my altimeter after I exit. There's a button on your left thumb. You don't have to do that in real life, which is nice. So I'm going to do a little 360. I'm going to do a little styling sit flying, right? So I can actually pop into a sit and turn. But if I pull in a sit, I will have a malfunction. So I'm not going to pull real high because I know it's windy. I don't really see the wind drifting me as I look straight down, as we sometimes see on a really windy day. Parachute looks good. I'm holding a heading that should give me a little drift to the right. And I do see a little drift to the right. That's interesting. Okay, so everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and pull the drawstrings on my slider. That's these guys right here. It scrunches up the slider. I'm going to grab my toggles, make sure I'm not reaching through the excess brake line. I'm going to release those brakes and flare, and I know that I'm headed more or less across the wind line, and so I'm going to do a 180 to the left and see that my canopy is doing everything that it should. So let's check the ground track. So if I look at my hand, it appears that I am drifting to the left, right? So looking at that wind line, let's adjust this so that I'm really pretty close to perpendicular to the runway. So I'm going kind of in that direction at this point. Now this is uniform winds all the way to the ground. And one of the things I've requested, and I'm sure they'll do it, is to change it so that the winds get lower as you get closer to the ground, because that's realistic. So I'm going to stay on the upwind side of the target. I'm at 1.4 right now, and I'm going to do a right-hand traffic pattern right for that point in the middle. There's a nice round target. There's a smaller one. There's a pea gravel over here a little closer to the runway. I'm going to figure this way you should be able to see pretty clearly what's going on. So facing kind of into the wind a little bit, right? I'm going to make a little correction. Oh, there we go. I had a little glitch. VR, sometimes you do have glitches. You don't let yourself worry about it. Now, I'm flying a little wider than I want, so I'm going to tighten it up a little. If you notice, I'm angling it in, and the reason is I need to turn in early. I'm going to start my turn before I get to the target and let it drift. Notice it's drifting to my left. If I need to drift a little bit more, I can and let it slide out, but I don't want to go too far over Jean Paul Thacker's house, or at least it used to be his house. And I'm going to turn myself in. And now, the truth is, I think I might be better. I just wanted to get a sense of what the glide ratio will look like. So I missed the target on this jump, but at least I'm finding a nice sweet spot where there's clean air to land. Okay, back on the balloon. I'm going to exit and orient myself to the airport. It's right over that way. So even if you're in free fall, you have to note that you're going to drift with the wind, right? You can see the direction of the wind. Even in free fall, you do drift at the speed of the wind. So you certainly need to pay attention to that with your spotting. All right, so you have to exit far enough upwind. I'm going to do a little tracking here so I get nice and far out. Give myself a bad spot, and I'm going to wave off now. And the drop zone is down to my right. I'm going to hold this heading more or less across the wind line while I check my parachute. Collapsing the drawstring. As if you're more experienced, you'll loosen your chest strap. So right now I'm in a run, and it's very easy in a tailwind situation, right? The wind is going where I want to go. It's increasing my ground speed by quite a lot. It's very easy, I think, to see, first of all right, I'm going way out here, and if I look down at that target, do you notice that it's descending below my hand? right? That means I'm going to overfly it if I keep this heading. So rather than go past the drop zone, I'm going to turn 90 degrees to the wind line, and I'm going to observe my ground track. I'm noticing any kind of drift, and it looks like I'm drifting somewhere out this way. And now I'm going to turn into the wind at 1.9. Not because it's 1.9. I was just double checking. I don't want to be doing, flying off to the sand pit when I'm low. So let's look for my glide ratio into the wind, right? So this is a pretty steep glide ratio. And of course, my true glide ratio has not changed. I'm still moving through the air mass at a 2.5 to 1 glide ratio. But depending on my relationship to the wind line, I may have a much faster or much slower ground speed. All right, so I'm way upwind, looking good. Let's go for that other target. There's another circle, a pea gravel that's a little closer to the runway. So I'm going to aim for that one. I'm at 1.2, looking for traffic before I intrude into the space where others are. And I'm going to kind of hang out here for a moment. Because it is windy, I'm not going to head. Is that an airport? Are there an airplane? Looks like there's an airplane over there. That's interesting. Distracted. So I'm still at 700 feet, so I'm not coming back yet. Because it is windy and because I can hold my position by adding brakes. See that? I'm not moving across the ground very much at all because I've slowed the parachute's airspeed. And therefore I've slowed its ground speed. If I slow down my parachute's ground speed, the horizontal component of my flight, to equal to the speed of the wind, I will not move across the ground at all. So I'm going to start my turn just a little bit on the early side. And notice the drift, right? I'm drifting away. I'm drifting out towards, and this gives me a lot of leverage, out towards my final approach. And now I'm going to start a turn towards the final. And if it looks like I'm going to come up short, I could add rears, but I don't want to add rears and float myself when I'm really low and late because you lose a lot of airspeed. There we go. And losing airspeed is a thing. When it's really windy, the parachute bounces around a lot more when you're in slow flight, because when you slow that parachute down, increasing your pitch angle by adding drag, pulling down on the back of the parachute, it does bounce around more. So I try to keep my speed whenever possible, and adding rear risers or brakes in severe turbulence sometimes can cause collapses. It's not usually the case, but it's possible. So there you go. A little high wind testing on Skydive Sim. That was awesome. I'm Brian Germain. I look forward to seeing you on the Wednesday night meetups. Have a great day.